Johnny Mans was a brilliant comedian turned agent and producer, but the comedy has never left him. He's a naturally funny man and has me in stitches a lot, especially on the WhatsApp group I started in 2020. And within the Water Rats Lodge in London, he has us in hysterics. Johnny's anecdotes are worth tuning in for as we kick off the chat with Tommy Cooper featuring, and it goes on with stories of Norman Wisdom, Dennis Spicer, Ray Allen, John Pertwee, the Tiller Girls, and a story about a toilet in Tesco's. It's another cracker in the season of the Grand Order of Water Rats. So welcome to Eyes and Teeth, Johnny Mans.
Jeff Conrad.
Hi, Johnny. Wave. No, with your hands. Yeah. I've been researching you all night, so I've not slept. Oh, yes.
How did you do that?
Like I said, I'm outside your house, so I went through. I went through your bins.
Would you mind just emptying them? Good lad. Yeah.
I always greet you like this in Lodge. So hello, Johnny.
Hello.
He's worked with more ventriloquists than dummies have. So, Johnny, I've known you since I started in the business, actually. So in the mid-90s, I started to see you every time I went to a Norman Wisdom event at Variety Club of Great Britain. And, yeah, all those lunches. I started to see you around, but I never got to know you. But then, the first time we officially met, can you remember when that is?
Was it yesterday?
Yes, it was yesterday. It was lovely, unofficially, and there was only 6 of us. We have to say that for legal purposes. So this was, the first time we met was outside Her Majesty's Theatre, I believe, in 2004.
Oh, right. I'll tell you what that was. It was the Dora Bryan tribute.
Yes.
And because I used to put Dora out on tour, and she became a great friend of ours, you know, and Becky, my wife, those two got on very well. But I used to put Dora out on various one-night shows. And when I came along to the tribute show, there were 2 stars for me on that show. One was Kev Orkian, who played the piano and did all his comedy. I thought he was brilliant.
He was great, wasn't he?
And the other was a young ventriloquist called, what was his name now? Steve Hewlett.
Never heard of him.
I thought he was absolutely brilliant.
Oh, bless you.
He'd done a thing on the stage as well with the just his hand and a handkerchief or something, and he was just so original.
Oh, that's Napkin Cole, was it? Napkin Cole, I think I did. That was.
I think it was. Yes.
Oh, wow, I forgot I did that. So that was such a great night because not only was it at the Her Majesty's Theatre in London, it was actually, I think it was 20 years. Yeah, it was 20 years to the week that Tommy Cooper last performed on that stage. So I was in a dressing room, and my play on, I don't know if you know this, but my play on was You Can Keep Your Fez On. It was called The Fez, and so I came on and paid tribute to Tommy with me dummies, you know. Anyway, that night was great. So Cliff Richard closed the first half. Kev Orkian was on later. Brian Conley, Sam Kane. Such a great night. But the thing that stands out for me was that it was the first time I met you. You stopped me and you were so complimentary. And I just never forgot that. It was very, very good of you there.
Well, you deserved it that night. But can I just break in quickly about Tommy Cooper?
Yes.
Because his last show would have been for me in Hastings.
Oh.
I booked him for the night down there. I'd arranged with Miss Ferrier's agent and Dove, his wife, that I would pick them up in the car. We booked the hotel, the Yelton Hotel next door, and I was going to drive them down there. We were going to have the weekend together, all have a bit of a laugh, and Tommy obviously topped the bill on the show at the White Rock Theatre. Anyway, the week before, Becky and I were watching the television with Tommy, and suddenly he was doing this trick, pulling all the things out the bag and what have you, and he just fell down and started snoring, or it sounded like, and I said to Becky, God, I hope he's not going to do that on Saturday and the White Rock, because, you know, it just wasn't funny.
Right.
Not knowing sadly, that he'd actually died.
Oh, it was awful
Such a
to watch, wasn't it?
coincidence.
That's really sad. I never knew that. You know that you're booked to work with him the next week. It's
I had to put Keith Harris and Orville in his
Did you?
place.
Oh, okay, that's wow. That's a crazy link, isn't
I
it?
digress.
Yeah, well, the digressing is good, and I love digress on this show. It's nice to digress because we get more stories and juice out of the interview. But it is very sad, and I did speak to Jimmy Tarbuck about that night a couple of weeks ago, and it's still very emotional, isn't it? Even though it's wow, we're looking at 35 years ago.
Was it that long ago? I know it was a long time ago, but you were brilliant on that night. And
Thank you,
if
Johnny.
I stopped to thank you, that's because you deserved it. You were fantastic.
That is
So
very nice.
original.
Thank you. Thanks very much. I wasn't fishing for compliments, but my fish basket is full. Thank you very much. I remember telling Nina that you stopped me. I said, "Oh my God, Johnny Mann! Look, I just spoke to Johnny Manns," and I was in awe. I knew who you were for many years, so it was, and we didn't meet again really until. Well, I know this. We didn't meet again until I became a water rat in 2014. So I waited. Wow, that long. I waited 10 years to meet you again. But you were always making me welcome.
I'm probably after something.
But you still haven't got it, whatever it is. So, I've got a couple of little quotes here because a lot of people have worked with you. Jimmy Cricket posted this on social media. Always a pleasure working for showbiz legend and friend and very funny man, Johnny Manns.
Oh, that was nice.
Yes, and it was also reported that you were called the Master Mirth Maker. Johnny Mann's act has been one of the great attractions at the La Bahome in Salisbury as a compere and a tremendous success. Do you remember that club? Was that a cabaret club at La
It
Bahome?
was a cabaret club, and yes, I mean, fortunately, I had a good success sort of for many years as a comic. Obviously, I had a lot of bad nights as well where you died on your backside, but
Yes.
most of all, if you had a bad night, you look back and think, well, I can't be that bad because I've had a lot of good nights.
If it's the other way round, if you have more bad nights than good nights, then you do need to rethink, don't you? But
Oh, yes.
but you've not. So it's very nice that you've had a great career on the comedy. I say the comedy circuit, in the theatre shows in the summer seasons, and I've seen so many posters with you on the bill, and I always send them to the group that we're on, and it's always nice to see Johnny Manns there. I go, oh my God, so you've been going for a while actually doing the comedy, but you come from a showbiz family as well. It amazed me how many people in your family were in the business. You're a third generation.
Oh, yeah.
So your grandfather was a Yorkshire comedian.
Billy Barrett, that's him.
Oh wow, Barrett. That's Billy Barrett? That's a nice name.
Billy Barrett was his name, yes. And my grandmother was a Tiller girl. That went down the line because my mother became a Tiller girl.
Amazing.
And I was one of 7 children, 6 sisters.
Were they all Tiller girls?
And then me.
Wow. Was you a Tiller girl?
I was actually. I got very friendly with them. No, one was with Kirby's Flying Ballet. Margaret was a beauty queen in all the beauty contests, but also a great singer. And she worked with Arthur Lucan and Kitty McShane. That was old Mother Riley.
Okay, wow.
The rest were dancers, but my mum used to produce pantomimes as well and concert parties. And I started in them when I was 8 as a cat in Dick Whittington.
Okay.
And then I sort of built up from there. And when I was about 15, I became a Carol Levis discovery on television.
So that was a talent show, wasn't it? Because I know Terry Hall, Lenny the Lion was on that, and it was so it was an early talent show, way before BGT.
He was the early talent show guy, and there was also another one, Brian Mickey, who used to do the talent shows, and I did one of those as well for TWW, which was Television Wales and the West, and that was working with the compere and the host of that show, a very talented Welshman called Wyn Colvin.
Oh, yeah. Just really sweetly spoke to Wyn. He's such a wonderful character, isn't he? I love Wyn.
Yes.
Oh.
I always remember when we went to John Adrian's funeral, and someone said that I think it was Roger Royal, the vicar, has said it's nice to know that Wynn's doing the speech, and we've managed to get an interpreter in as well.
Oh man, I love his speeches. I was talking to Wynn about his actual vocal, and it's an incredible story. He's just got it's mesmerising, his voice, isn't it? It really is.
Well, it is, but we keep in touch quite often because we go back like 60 odd years, which is amazing, really. He's one of my oldest friends, really.
It's amazing because you're only 59, so it's amazing how that's possible.
Well, almost.
Yeah.
Almost.
Ice and Teeth. Over the years, you've appeared in so many theatres with loads of star names as well. And there was an American comedy duo called the Bernard Brothers. Was that Matthews and Manning?
No, it was George and Bert Bernard. They used to do a mime act.
Wow.
And they dressed in little gingham, red and white gingham dresses with big bows on their hair, and they were hilarious. They were doing a week at the Bristol Hippodrome. They had a miming competition.
Okay.
And so I used to do a bit of miming as well, so I went along and did the competition, and one of my rivals was a big group of about 7 or 8 guys called the Crackpots.
Okay.
And they were very popular in the area and very talented as a mime act, but one of the guys was a comic called Dave Butler, if you remember Dave.
Right.
Bristol comic who did the comedians.
Yes.
But he was part of the Crackpots mime group, and fortunately, I did a Jerry Lewis routine, and I won the competition, so it gave me a week's work with the Bernard Brothers.
Oh, that's amazing. That's brilliant. I love your story. And then, did you admire Jerry Lewis? Dean Martin, Jerry Lewis.
Jerry Lewis was my hero in the early. When I was a kid, I used to go and see all the films.
Oh, did you?
I just
Amazing.
loved all his visual, silly antics.
His physicality was just brilliant, wasn't it? And I love his voice.
Yes.
A great voice as well. Very squeaky and an early Joe Pasquale, isn't he? But
the only problem with Jerry, I think, in his career is he wanted to do everything. He wanted to produce, direct, star in it, script write, and everybody got a bit tired of him wanting to do everything his way.
no, okay, I see. And I know that Freddie Davis, Freddie Parrotface, actually got to work with him on that wonderful Blackpool film, didn't he? Which was Funny Bones. Yeah, that was interesting as well, with Lee Evans and Jerry Lewis and Freddie and George Carl as well. You ever work with George Carl? He was great.
I didn't work with George Carl, but I admired his talent. He was
another mime act.
Very talented visually.
Yes. So mime acts are brilliant. Did you watch the early stuff like Charlie Chaplin's as well and Lauren Hardy?
I wasn't so much into Chaplin or Lauren Hardy, but Jerry Lewis I thought was hilarious. And then, of course, later on in years, another visual comic who I got to know quite well was a guy called Norman Wisdom.
Yeah.
Another story.
Yeah, we'll get onto that shortly, which is a beautiful story. And you worked as a redcoat. Where did you join Butlins?
I started as a redcoat at the Ocean Hotel in Brighton.
Okay, wow, just up the road. Yeah.
Yeah, and not far from you. And then I did the summer season there, and then after I'd gone home for about 2 weeks after the summer, they called me and said, did I want to do the winter? So I did the winter season there.
Nice.
And of course met a lot of the stars and what have you. And then at the end of that winter season, I thought I might like a change. So I went to Pontins.
Right, change of colour of coat.
Change of colour. I went to Pontins in Pakefield in Lowestoft.
Yes, Shane Ritchie's territory, isn't it?
Yeah, and after about a week, the entertainments manager buggered off. He'd got his winter retainer and he buggered off. And the general manager called me in and said, can I make you entertainments manager?
You was only 21?
21.
That's unheard of.
Yeah.
Even today,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
So I had a team of about 12 people under me. And
bet you did.
I could type, and only 2 fingers, but I could type. right? And because I'd organised things, because when I was 17, going back a few years, I used to hire a pub and book at the back room of a pub and book rock and roll bands in there. And I called it the Cool Cats Club. I used to take money on the door and then enough money with all the crowds in there, all the kids popping and jiving and what have you. I used to pay for the hire of the room and then pay the band, and I'd come out with a bit of profit. So my entrepreneurial skills started when I was about 17.
Yeah, I was just thinking that promotion, gene was in you from an early age. And do you think it's because you were surrounded by dancers and music and singers and comedians?
Oh, probably, yeah. Because, my mum with all the showbiz background and
yes,
all my dancing sisters and what have you.
The Cool Cats Club, I love that.
Went on,
Yeah, so at Butlins and at Pontins, would you, because I done this, I wasn't in Butlins or Pontins, but I wore a blue coat in both years. Barry Island used to be a Butlins, but it was Majestic, and I became a blue, the coat was blue, so I call myself a blue coat. And then I would sit there, and I used to love like 8 o'clock at night every night, because we would have a new comedian or a new magician or singer or something. So I got to see so many acts. What acts do you remember watching when you was a redcoat? Do you remember any of the comedians that come up?
Any of the comic? Oh, there was quite a few of them. Terry Cantor was one, which was Kenny Cantor's dad.
Yes,
he was very funny.
Of course, past King
Rat.
Rat.
There's a guy called Ken Roberts.
Right.
Cyril Dowler, John Pertwee. We had all sorts of people there. Dennis Spicer, the ventriloquist. And he and I became great friends.
Did you? Dennis was incredible, wasn't he? Way ahead of his time, Dennis was.
Oh, he was, yes. Probably almost as good as a guy called Steve Hewlett.
No, I do aspire to be a little bit like Dennis. I think he's incredible, and thank you for that, bless you. But I will send a check.
He was a great fun as well. It was so sad, because after Pontins, I went back to Butlins again.
Right.
And I was compere at Ayr in Scotland.
Okay.
And that's where I met Dennis. But lots of stars there. John Pertwee was one of my guest stars, and he always used to make me laugh, because he had a very good act as well.
Amazing. What did John Pertwee do? We obviously know him as Wurzel Gummidge and Doctor Who, but in the early days, what did Johnny Pertwee do?
He used to tell gags, and he used to play guitar and sit on a chair. And one line he always used to make me laugh at was he had fluorescent socks. One was green and one was orange. And he used to say, "This is amazing, my socks. I've got another pair at home exactly the same."
That's
of course,
lovely.
being young, I thought that was a tremendous line. Probably wouldn't make people laugh these days, but it did then.
No, I do the same gag, but with pants.
Oh, do you?
It doesn't work. It doesn't get the same reaction.
Oh, no, I've seen you do that in the toilets at Tesco.
Morrison's.
Morrison?
Yeah.
Listen, can I tell you a quick line about Tesco's?
Yeah, please. Yeah, every little helps. Go on.
A theatre manager, a great friend of mine, Michael Gattrell, who used to be at Horsham, sent me a key ring a couple of years ago. It's one of these carry-on, and it makes noises. There's 6 buttons, and if you press one, it does a carry-on phrase.
Oh, nice.
Well, I was having a haircut at my local barber's, and I was dying for the loo, so I thought, oh, God, where's the nearest loo? So I thought, Tesco. So I thought, after the haircut, I whipped round to Tesco's, shot in the gents' toilet, and locked myself in the cubicle.
Yes.
Not realising I'd left this key ring in my pocket. Well, I took my coat off and hung it on the door. And if you can imagine the scene, I'm locked in this cubicle. Loads of guys outside having a wee. And I'm locked in the cubicle, and suddenly accidentally pressed my coat. And it went. I do feel queer.
I love that you still got it.
I'm sitting in this locked toilet thinking, Christ, I can't go out now for about 20 minutes. Very embarrassing.
Yeah, the fact that you're still sat there with that keyring is brilliant. I love it.
Oh, yeah, I still tend to use it now and again.
Oh, controversial.
I've just become patron of the Max Miller Appreciation Society. So did you like any of Max's stuff?
Well, he was obviously got away with murder with the innuendos and what have you. But I never actually met Max. I'd love to have seen him. Of course, I did see Roy do an impression of him.
Oh, Roy Hudd, was brilliant as Max, wasn't he? Yeah, incredible. Because I know he worked with Max on a bill once, didn't he? And or twice, but. Yeah, Roy's told me a lot about Max Miller, and the last time I worked with Roy, actually, I took a lovely photograph from the wings of Roy Hudd standing as Max Miller in the spotlight in Clacton at the Westcliff, and it's such a beautiful picture of Roy. It depicts, Roy Hudd in that spotlight in the show business. I love it. I'll send it to you after this. It's a lovely picture.
Can I break in with a quick story about Clacton there?
Oh, yes, please, yeah.
I booked Nicholas Parsons there one Sunday afternoon.
Oh.
And Nicholas was like mid-90s, right?
Wow, yeah.
So I booked him the show at I think it was the Westcliff, Clacton anyway, and on a Sunday afternoon, 4 o'clock. On the Monday he called me, he said, Johnny, don't ever do that again. I said, what? He said, you booked me on a Sunday afternoon. He said, they were all old people. And he's like 90 odd. Can't believe that.
Forever youthful, wasn't he? Yeah.
Oh, he was great, Nick.
Oh,
anyway,
wow.
I digress again.
Well, no, let me digress with you, because just before I came on this call, I just got accepted in the audience of Just a Minute, and I've always loved Just a Minute on the radio. I listen to all of them, but now Paul Merton is hosting, and I think Giles Brandreth as well. So I've always loved the show, and obviously with Nicholas in Lodge, it was incredible, and it was always nice to listen to his stories and how busy he was in his mid-90s, like you say. But so on this Wednesday, I'm going to be tuning in for a couple of hours. I'm going to be part of the audience for the first time, actually.
Well, you will love it. When Nicholas was doing it, my son Elliot and myself went down.
Yeah.
And, to the live show. And Elliot, being obviously a lot younger, said to me after the show, he said, I thought Nicholas was hilarious.
Oh.
Which he was.
That's nice.
And you think when a younger person says that as well,
yes,
the guy must be talented.
Yeah, he is. I was reading his biography on a cruise, actually. I was in the Caribbean, and Ant and Dec were on that cruise. It was the Britannia, the P&O ship, and they were recording Saturday Night Takeaway on it. And I was reading my biography, and we were in Gibraltar, so it must have been it was in Spain. That was it, Barcelona. And then we were flying back from Gibraltar. I flew back with Ant and Dec. They were up front, obviously. When I was at the carousel, and I think it was Ant who said, Steve, that must be your luggage, because I had these huge trunks with loads of dummies in and stuff. So I started to do the voice. I started to do that. So I made them laugh. But then Dec looked at me. He said, what are you reading? And I showed him a book, and it was Nicholas Parsons. He laughed as if to say, Nicholas Parsons? Is it why are you reading such an, I don't know, an older style book? But Nicholas, to me, is one of those TV host presenters, radio presenters that have been, at the top of his game for literally 70 years. And I thought Ant and Dec would respect somebody like that and actually be inspired by them. But I was kind of taken back by his reaction to the book I was reading. But I totally adored Nicholas. He was brilliant, and he was very funny, and a true pro, wasn't he? True pro.
Timing, and he was a very good actor as well.
He did everything, didn't he? He done so much.
Nicholas. A lot of younger people don't necessarily appreciate some of the older stars and how good they were.
Yeah, I do like looking back. I know you know that I'm passionate, and I do respect people before us, and that's why that's why I'm writing a book. But it's all I think we do need to embrace the past in this business and really, always look back. It's fun looking back, isn't it? We're talking about Tommy Cooper, Les Dawson.
Past, we wouldn't have a future, would we?
Without a past, I wouldn't be able to talk to you about this wonderful career that you've had. So working in Clubland, that must have been incredible, because all the cabaret clubs around the country were still bustling, weren't they? They were busy.
Oh, yeah. Well, clubs I did like forever, and some of them were good, some of them were bad. What I used to do, if I had a bad audience, I'd stay on longer just to annoy them.
I do that. Yes, I still do it.
Oh dear. One of the most embarrassing things I had once was I was booked at a place called the Caprice in Watford, a little nightclub restaurant.
Right.
And I got in there, and there was only 2 people in.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, oh, well, obviously, this is silly. So I went up to the manager and I said, we've only got 2 people in. I said, so I thought, well, early night for me. I said, what do you want me to do then? I thought he'd say, go home. He said, oh, well, just do half an hour. I thought, oh, God, no.
15 minutes each.
To work for 2 people sitting at a table.
No.
And when I finished, I went to get my gear on in the dressing room, and the manager came in. He said, oh, they want to know if you're going to have a drink with them. I said,
with the audience?
Honestly, he said, yeah, they want to buy you a drink. So I went out, sat with them, had a drink, and the guy said to me, oh, you were great tonight. He said, we've seen you 3 times. I said, bloody hell, I'm glad you didn't tell me that before I went on.
That's crazy. It's that promoter, did he, you could have taught him a few things, couldn't you? But did he advertise the show, or how did these 2 find out that you were on?
What he said, people used to go to Bailey's, which was in Watford as well.
Right.
But they had finished their season. And what he said was after the night at Bailey's, people used to then go to his late night restaurant.
Okay.
But of course, Bailey's season finished, so there was no audience to go to his late night club.
Right. Wow.
And that's why there was only 2 people in.
Oh, that's crazy.
I honestly thought that night I was going to go home early.
Yeah, I mean, it's those moments, isn't it, where you think, oh, have I lost it? Is the business not going to get any better? And you could start, do I look for another job or something? But you did 5 seasons in Jersey, so that must have been really good fun.
Yeah.
It must have really sparked your interest in comedy again.
Well, 6 if you look at the fact that when I worked for Dick Ray, I had to do 2 different theatres.
Wow.
Or clubs.
In one season.
One was, I didn't realise it till I got there, because he said you signed for 14 shows, but you won't do them. And I thought, oh, that's good. Anyway, when I got out there, I was at Bean's West Park Pavilion with the Rockin' Berries show, and then I walked down the road just for a little walk round, and I saw I was on another poster at Swanson's. And I thought, what's that? I'm in that. So I had to do my gig at West Park and then get in the car, drive around, find some of the park and dash in and do another show at Swanson's, which was 2 different theatres, but 1 season as such.
Yeah, that's quite hard work. I mean, doing a season all season, but doing it twice in one night is...
Twice, yes.
2 shows in one theatre.
The chance of working with the Berries, which was nice, they were good. And also, Bob Monkhouse came along and did a couple of Sundays.
Oh, amazing. Brilliant.
Which was great, too.
Nice to get to work with Bob. I've seen a lot of his documentaries recently. It's just, he was a master, wasn't he, Bob?
Yeah, I did his last summer season for him, booked his last summer season on the Isle of Wight. Supporting him was Ray Allen.
Oh, you're kidding. Wow, what a night.
Yeah.
I remember them both on Gag Tag. Do you remember the Gag Tag? It was a great comedy show. Yeah, well, it was Bob Monkhouse hosted and Ray Allen was on that. So they must have been close.
I had them out there for, I think it was about an 8-week season, so obviously, got to know them both well.
Yes. So in Jersey, were you, did you turn from comedian to promoter and agency then?
How it evolved really was, I was doing summer seasons, I was doing pantomimes, I did about 9 pantos, here, there and everywhere as Idle Jack and Buttons and Muddles and all sorts of characters, but the same character, but just different names. Really.
It is, yeah.
And after that, there was a guy called Len Kramer who had an agency.
Okay.
And he was going into hospital. He had a cancer operation.
Oh.
And he said, do you think you could do me a favour? I said, what's that? He said, well, I've got to go in the hospital. Would you come into the office and just look after the phone, answer the phone for me? Because I just want someone who I can trust to just, take the calls and what have you.
Yeah.
Anyway, I did that, and that was over by sort of Willesden Way, Neasden, that area.
Okay.
I'm in this office, and the phone calls are coming in, and they're asking about acts for clubs. So I started booking people like Mike Reed and Little and Large and various people like that. And after about 2 weeks, when he came back, he went berserk. I said, well, I've booked Matt Monroe and I've booked Mike Reed. He said, we can't. No, he said, I only do bread and butter acts. He said, you've booked all these bloody names, you know. It's going to be a major problem. Anyway, the next day, he's getting all phone calls saying how good these artists were. And he said to me, would you like to be a partner? What? From getting a bollocking to being a partner in like 24 hours was amazing.
Yeah, so he went from trusting you to being disappointed to trusting you completely.
Yeah. Anyway, I couldn't do it because I was booked to go to various other places, you know, clubs and what have you, and Panto.
Yes.
But I went out to South Africa. I think it was South Africa that season. Anyway, I was abroad. I just couldn't do it. And after another summer season in Jersey, I don't know if you know a guy called Brian Shaw, but Brian had an agency as well.
Okay.
I said, yeah, I don't mind doing a bit of work for you after the season, but I've got a season in Malta. I'll have to do that before I can stay in the office that long. Anyway, I went into the office, and the first day I booked Mike Reed and made a profit for us. And there again, he said, oh, do you want to book the theatres for us? So I booked the theatres. And after about a week, I said to him, I've taken the full page on the front of the stage, advertising all the artists. He said, oh, you can't, that's £1,000. He said, we can't afford that. I said, well, I've made a profit with the Bachelor's Tour.
Okay.
He said, we haven't got a Bachelor's Tour. I said, no, I've put one together and I've done that. And consequently, it built up from there, sort of thing.
That's amazing.
After that, I joined Billy Marsh as well.
Did you? You worked with Billy Marsh, and Billy Marsh was one of the big
director of his promotions company.
Yes, that's incredible.
And we had lots of stars over from America, and well, it just went on from there.
Yeah, because I guess you go from Billy Marsh to like Bernard Delphon, don't you? Billy Marsh was so big up there. It was,
I used to work. I've known Billy for years anyway. I'd worked for Billy as a comic.
Okay.
And what was funny with Billy Marsh is that so many people were in awe of him.
Yes.
That he'd stand at the bar having a drink on his own because people were scared to talk to him because he was so big in the business. Oh. Of course, I wasn't afraid of anybody, so I just go up and have a chat, and we became great mates.
Oh, that's lovely.
And consequently, he kept saying to me when I was with the other office, he kept saying, well, can't you join me? I'll give you a car, I'll give you your own office, I'll give you your PA. We used to have loads of lunch meetings. And then eventually, I did join him, and it went on from there.
Oh, that's amazing. I know he managed Keith Harris, didn't he, for a number of years?
Yeah, I did all Keith Harris's tour, and we got Keith Harris tour jackets done, and
wow.
Rolf Harris, his tours, and
all the Harrises.
Bruce Forsyth tour. Did all the big tours.
How long was it till Sir Norman Wisdom came into your... Was it the early 80s?
Well, actually, Norman Wisdom came into my life, believe it or not, 1962.
Really?
Yeah, I was wandering along Oxford Street, and he was coming down Tottenham Court Road, had a little blazer on, and he was very, dapper and what have you. And of course, although I didn't know him, you tend to think you do know him.
Yeah. He made you feel that way, didn't he?
That's it. And I bumped into him, and we had a chat, and I said, I was a fledgling wanted to be a comic and what have you. And he took me round to see Billy Marsh.
Oh, okay.
And we had a chat, but it wasn't until later, in 1981, I think it was, that I got to see Norman again and start putting his tours out.
Oh, that's amazing. You became so close, didn't you? But you put all those tours on.
I mean, he was like a grandfather to my kids, Elliot and Lucy, they adored him, and he used to phone them and give them advice every day. And of course, Becky loved him, and I loved him. He was part of the family, really.
Yeah, the nation loved him, didn't they? He's a national treasure. But you've said about Norman, you said, and I quote, you said Norman was a naughty little boy, but he never grew up, did he?
Oh, I put him on once. I used to do the shows at St James's Palace and Buckingham Palace.
Wow.
And one night we had a Buckingham Palace winter show, which was done in the Mews of Buckingham Palace.
Okay.
And I had Norman there, and prior to the audience coming in, he went round sticking his finger in all the mince pies. He was hilarious. And another little story about, I used to put the artists on there, and I had Anne Shelton on one night, and the stage was at the far end of the Mews, and the toilets were the other end, on the entrance as you go in.
Yes.
The gents and the ladies were just by the entrance there. So you had to walk right down through the Mews to the stage area. Well, to save the artists, having to go through the people, I organised to have a bucket in the ladies' side and a bucket in the gents' side.
Right.
And on this particular night, Anne Shelton came up to me and she said, "Johnny, I've got to complain. This is absolutely disgusting." I said, "What's the matter?" She said, "The Wurzels are peeing in my bucket."
That sounds like a great song.
Yeah. And what they'd done, because there were so many of the Wurzels, they couldn't all go in the same bucket. One used to whip round the back of the stage and use the ladies' bucket.
Oh, that's brilliant.
But yeah, Norman was a naughty little boy, and he was always doing silly things. His favourite meal was burger and chips.
Oh, was it?
And we used to go to burger bars and Wimpy's and what have you, and he'd end up chucking his chips across the restaurant, with people.
You know what I love to do? I love to see the statues around the country. So if I'm on tour, I would find out if there's a statue. Like I've met the Tommy Cooper one, Max Miller in Brighton, Morecambe and Wise in Blackpool, and Morecambe, Les Dawson. I've never been to the Isle of Man, but it's my goal to do a show over there, but go and sit on the bench with Norman because he's got a statue there, isn't he? And I would love to go to the Isle of Man. So it was Norman Wisdom, that place, wasn't it? He loved it there.
He absolutely loved it, yeah. He just settled there. I mean, he wasn't a tax exile or anything.
No.
He always paid his British tax. And that's why it took so long, really, for the government to realise before they gave him a gong. Because they thought, a lot of the civil servants thought that he was a tax exile going to the Isle of Man.
Wow.
But he wasn't. He still used to pay British taxes. And eventually we got, with a lot of push and what have you, we managed to get the OBE for him and then his knighthood.
Oh, that's amazing that you pushed for that.
He deserved it.
Yeah, he definitely did. He made just millions laugh, didn't he? Was it?
God, yeah.
Oh, that's lovely. And was Charlie Chaplin a fan of his?
Charlie Chaplin was a fan as well.
Isn't that lovely?
And of course, Norman liked Charlie Chaplin, so a bit of a mutual admiration society.
Yeah, that's lovely to see. Now, I've done many shows. When I done 1994 on the Isle of Wight, I was a blue coat entertainer, and we had a guest entertainer every week. They were repeats, so I got to know those acts. The Wurzels actually were there at the end of the season, but they didn't pee in my bucket or in my dummy's box. But I saw some great acts, but I remember one specifically because we became friends. I spoke to him last week. Glenn M. Ford, the greatest Norman Wisdom tribute. Glenn's great, isn't he?
Glenn's great, yeah, even though he's Norman Wisdom 24 hours a day.
yes.
He's very good. He's so passionate about Norman.
Yeah.
That I think, even when you talk to him, he becomes Norman Wisdom.
He does, yeah. I know he misses him tremendously because it's a big part of his life. And
Oh, yeah. Wow. But, Norman was great. I remember once at the BAFTA Awards, I went with Norm, and we were all sat around this round table. It was Roy Castle one side of me and Norman the other side of me.
Wow.
And we went up to present the award and what have you. Arsenal's lap. And he was always doing something silly like that.
Talk about record breakers.
Well, when we go out together, we do silly things like we go through revolving doors of a hotel. He would go through, and then I'd go through, and he wasn't there. He'd gone back out again. So then I'd go back out, and then he'd come back in again. we'd spend about 20 minutes going around these revolving doors.
It's incredible. I was at the reveal of the Max Miller statue in Brighton, and there was Roy Hudd, June Whitfield, and I remember Norman was the special guest, and he was the one that was going to pull the string to pull the cloth off of the statue, and in true Norman Wisdom style, and I don't even think it meant to happen, but it was perfect for Norman. He pulled it, and it didn't come off. It got caught, and so everyone was laughing, and all we had to do was pull a string, and it was like he planned it, but he didn't. It was just they had to kind of drag it off there, but it got a massive applause when he got that.
He just had great comic timing.
He did, yeah. He loved making laughter, didn't he?
Oh yeah, and what he used to do too, when we were eating in a restaurant, he never used to eat all his food. He'd chuck it onto your plate. And we went to an Italian restaurant once over in South London, and your friend David Lodge was there.
Oh yes.
And quite a few of us there. Norman was there, and the Italian chef was so proud of his meal, you know, that he'd cooked for us.
Yes.
Anyway, I ate all mine because I love Italian food, not knowing that Norman would then chuck half of it, well, most of his stuff onto my plate. And of course, when the chef came out to see what the food was like, did you enjoy your meal? He blew his top over me. He said, "Oh, you're not eating my meal." I said, "No, I've eaten it. It is."
You've had yours.
But, he's just always doing silly little things.
Yeah, he's incredible.
It was great.
Eyes and Teeth. You took over in 2009 the Encore magazine. Now, that was printed every 2 months, wasn't it, for the entertainment industry? And
yeah, I used to do it every 1 month, and then, of course, by the time you got one done, you're on to the next one.
It's a lot of work.
I'm not booking any shows, so I had to make it every 2 months.
Okay.
And but yeah, I took that over. I did 10 years with it, Encore magazine.
Yes.
Because a lot of people forget that there wasn't really anything about light entertainment. The stage had gone to starting, it was becoming more about drama and...
theatre plays, yeah.
Yeah.
Musicals.
So Encore magazine, to me, was a way of telling people that we're still out there.
Yeah. No, it was so nice to see because you saw all the variety in it and the stories, and you very kindly used me on the front cover in November 2011. I was chuffed with that.
Well, you deserved it.
It was my equivalent to a reality star being on OK Magazine or a stallion being on Horse and Hound. It made me smile, you know. But so you gave me that opportunity, but it's things like this really about people trying to not hold on to the business, but trying not to let it die out, isn't it? It's like they say ventriloquism is a dying art. It's difficult to let variety go just like that after so many.
It is, and I've often said to my daughter Lucy is a TV producer, and I've often said to her, wouldn't it be nice eventually, once you're in that position, to be able to talk to the right people and persuade the right people to bring back not necessarily a talent show, but a show of artists that don't get a chance to appear on television.
Yes.
Great variety acts.
Yeah.
You know, and hopefully that might happen in the future if we can get the ideas across to the right people.
Yeah.
People like yourself or Kev or Ian Richards or, you know, a lot of the artists, a lot of the water rats really, that have got great talents but don't get a chance to be seen on the box.
Yeah, sure. You feel like you have to compete all the time, you know, or go on one of these reality shows, which is not us. We want to just do our acts, you know, and then we want to use that up on telly, and then we want to write a new act and put that on telly, and we want to keep writing. But I write all the time myself, but I don't get to do it on telly, so my show's just getting longer that I take on the road, you know, but you don't get to, if you use it on telly, you don't want to use it again. But yeah, you don't get that opportunity. It's nice to use your influence. And Lucy as she works on Britain's Got Talent. She's done that for a few years, hasn't she?
She's done X Factor, Britain's Got Talent, I'm a Celebrity, The Voice.
Wow.
She's done all the sort of big shows, which is good. And even this year, she's been working like a lot of the stuff from home, putting the show together, editing a lot of the shows and putting them together.
Okay, wow.
Because of this social distancing.
Yeah, it's almost impossible to do, isn't it?
It's very difficult, but she never seems to stop working, which is good, because so many people, sadly, haven't got work at the moment.
Yeah, that's true, but we need television, don't we? We need things, and shows are still getting made.
But we need also some of the talent that we've got that never gets a chance to get on television. And of course, artists like, a lot of the bread and butter acts don't want to go on because they think that if they get slated on television, it might kill their working clubs or theatres.
Yeah, definitely. You need.
There's no work in clubs or theatres at the moment. So I don't think it would matter.
No, there isn't. You need a night at the Apollo, but for any act like a ventriloquist, because they cover the comedians, don't they? But we do need one where you can get a comedy magician or a ventriloquist or, a juggler or something that can go on and do variety, not variety at the Apollo, because the word variety really is the word that people are trying to frown on. But
yeah, we've got to think of another title. Even like entertainment is not quite right, but something along those lines. And I've got quite a lot of contacts now in the TV world as well. So between the two of us, between Lucy and myself, with contacts, we might be able to get something forward. You never know.
Yeah, that's amazing. I wish you all the best with that. Well, I'm really excited because just yesterday I got a contract with Sky TV. Yeah, I've signed up for 12 months and you get 16 channels in.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah,
that's brilliant.
I know that you knew where this was going. You've probably told that on the WhatsApp group, actually.
No, I think it was Dan Leno told me that one.
It's an old classic. Now, I'd like to talk to you before we go, Johnny. I'd love to talk to you about the Grand Order of Water Rats. Me and you, so gladly, I've become closer to you over the last 7 years because of this, and.
Yeah.
We really do enjoy you being in Lodge because Johnny Mance, the comedian, is back. Now, when we sit down in Lodge, because I just thought you was a promoter and a manager, until I went to Lodge, I got to know, and they went, no, he was a comedian, and I started to research you, and I'm sorry I didn't know that about you before, but you're not.
Well, a lot of people didn't, and it took me 28 years to get into the Water Rats.
Really? Wow.
Believe it or not. I was first being put up by Derek Roy, who you may or may not remember is a very old comic.
No, the name, yes.
Yeah, and I worked with Derek when I was a teenager, and he was putting me up for the Water Rats.
Wow.
And of course, when you're outside, you don't know what's happening. You're just waiting around.
Yes.
And then sadly, Derek died.
Oh.
Well, several years later, Frankie Vaughan was putting me up, and Charlie Smithers was going to second me.
Nice.
And of course, that went on for a while, and you're thinking, what's happening? And I got to know later that the reason I didn't get in was because Frankie Vaughan hadn't attended Lodge much.
Right.
So therefore, they wouldn't let him put me up.
Okay, yeah.
So I waited and waited and waited. Then eventually I was put up. I forget who it was now, put me up. But somebody put me up again, and I didn't get in.
Oh,
because they thought I was an agent.
Oh, I see.
And I thought, hang on a minute, I've had a comic career probably longer than a lot of the members.
Yes, yeah.
And eventually Peter Elliott and Keith Simmons put me forward, and I got in.
Oh, lovely. Okay.
But all in all, it was about 28 years of waiting.
Oh, wow. And how long have you been in there now?
I've been in there 26 years, I think.
Wow, but it would have been double that. If you'd have got in the original time, it would have been over 50 years now, wouldn't it?
I'd have probably been one of the original members.
Yeah. Oh, bless you. Well, I just want to say that you're a joy in Lodge, because the banter that you give out is just so funny.
Well,
and it's.
I don't do a lot in Lodge, but now and again, when I think of something,
Yeah.
plod in.
No, it's nice. And nearly a year ago, can you believe this? It is nearly a year ago. I started a WhatsApp group for the Water Rats when we went into lockdown, and we've been in touch nearly every day. And I think I've seen your name on there nearly every day, and I think you've done your act about 20 times on it, and loads of other people's acts. But you are so funny on there, and you've brightened everyone's day. Nearly.
Well, that's very kind of you to say so, but most of it is just like silly thoughts. You think of things, someone says something, and you come back, you think of an answer.
Of course, it's banter, isn't it? And if someone mentions a subject like ice cream, you've got a gag for that. So you're like Bob Monkhouse in a way, really, because you have, but you're quite quick. You come back, and I'm trying to type, and I can see, Johnny Manns is typing. I think I need to get the punchline in before he does. I think we're racing you to the. It's like one of these panel game shows of all these comedians, and they're trying to get the gag in before,
Trying to get the gag in first,
yeah, but I do. I think I hope I got the same punchline as Johnny.
Well, that's why I try and come up with something that might be original.
No, you do.
Will think of it.
You do. It's brilliant. And just this morning, if you don't mind me reading this one out, it's just this morning, you WhatsApped, as Eric Morecambe would say, it's nice out today. I think I'll leave it out. That was nice.
Well, that was an Eric Morecambe line.
Yes, yeah. So nice.
Which he did, and a lot of people watching television thought, isn't that a bit strong? But Eric could get away with anything. I think he was a really, really funny guy.
He was natural, wasn't he?
Absolutely.
He's brilliant.
There are quite a lot of good guys now. There's a lot of comics these days that I don't necessarily laugh at, but there's a lot of comics that I really, really do laugh at.
Yeah, me too. Is there anyone that you didn't get to work with that you would love to have worked with?
Well, believe it or not, going back, because my mum worked with a guy called Archie Leach, and we are like related cousins, down the line a bit, but cousins of Archie Leach, and I would have loved to have met him, who joined a tumbling group, went to America, and became Cary Grant.
Well, that's a lovely story.
And I would love to have met Cary, as he's part of the family.
What an incredible story. Yeah, my granddad reminds me of Cary Grant. He's got that look, of Cary as the movie star, and my granddad Jack, he was a farmer, but he's got that look in his eye, of and I always saw a bit of Cary Grant in my granddad.
Yeah,
what a
so
sweet
I would
story.
love to have met Cary Grant, but other people, I don't know. I mean, I've worked with most of them anyway, most of the older ones.
I think you have. It's extensive.
And even some of the younger ones I've met, even if I haven't worked with them.
Yes.
And one of the nicest tributes I had, I was supporting Lenny Henry at one time down in Worthing.
All right, yeah.
And I was doing the first half and really had a great audience. And Lenny was up in the dressing room, but he had the speakers on. And
Okay.
Of course, I was getting a lot of laughs, and he dashed down and said, "What's this? Who's that? What's going on here? What's happening here?" And I was getting the applause. So he never mentioned it until years later. We were up in Birmingham, a show called Rock with Laughter. I'd gone up as a special guest sort of thing with Becky, and Lucy was up there in Birmingham doing a TV show at the NEC, so she came along and joined us. And after the show, we went to the VIP area, and Lenny came in.
Right.
And we got chatting, and he came across to the table, and he looked at Lucy, my daughter, and he said, "Your dad's a very funny guy."
Oh.
And I thought, that was years later, but I thought, that was really nice of him.
That's nice, isn't it, to have that memory?
Yeah.
Wow.
Quite a nice actually, because I used to use Lenny as well on tour, put him out on tour, because he was with Robert Luff.
Yes, okay.
Remember Robert? He used to do the black and white minstrel show.
Yeah, I remember the name Robert. Have you read Lenny Henry's biography?
I haven't, no.
That's a nice read, that. It's nice.
Is it?
Yes, but yes, yeah. Don McLean actually helped him out actually in the early days, because he come off
Yeah,
New Faces at 16, didn't he, Lenny?
yeah.
And then
Don was a very good comic too.
yeah, and Don was really good to Lenny. So yeah,
Yeah.
wow, what a lovely story, a nice link as well. Now, Johnny, we're wrapping this up on Eyes and Teeth. Thank you so much for being here. But what can you tell me one prized possession that you've got, whether it's a signature or something someone has given to you in the business over the years that you can't let go of?
We've got a bottle of Bailey's here. I quite enjoy. I've got going through my office now. I'm trying to tidy my office, and I've got so many nice things, memorabilia.
Yeah, they make you smile every day, I bet.
I just treasure them all, really. I treasure my time in this business. I
Yeah.
treasure my family that have supported me all the way through.
Yes.
My wife Becky, my son Elliot, and my daughter Lucy. And also, I have 3 excellent grandsons
Oh.
that love the showbiz side. But Sebi, who's only 2, he's a real comic, and I think he's going to tread the boards.
Yeah, you think he's got that gene?
He keeps, you're having a chat and suddenly he'll walk in the room. He's only 2 and he'll come in with a waste paper basket on his head or something and a gigantic pair of glasses. And he's just so funny. And you say, give us a kiss, and he goes, no. And his timing, he pauses, he's got that sort of comic timing.
It sounds like it's a natural gene to get, actually. I mean, the fact that there are a big giant pair of glasses in your house is probably going to help him if he goes into Johnny Mann's prop cupboard and and he's got a fez on.
Well, we could talk forever because when I go back and look at it, and I sometimes look at it and I think, God, have I done all that?
It's amazing. It's nice to look back in it. Yeah.
Meeting like most of the royal family, or all these major stars like Buddy Greco and Bruce Forsyth,
Max Bygraves,
Cilla Black, and
yeah,
Dave Vera, and you go on and on and on. And I'm probably, like Norman used to say, he was the luckiest person in the world. Well, I think I'm the luckiest person in the world.
Oh, bless you. Well, thank you for doing what you've done for Norman, because you brought him to our hearts, around.
Yeah,
you kept him working.
And you see, just quickly with Norman, like a lot of artists, they don't want to do any publicity. They don't want to get up early and make a phone call to. Well, I pushed Norman into a lot of that because his career had sort of faded a bit after the films and everything.
Yes.
And so I said, no, you've got to make these calls. Otherwise, people think you're dead. You've got to let them know you're still out there.
That's true. So
I'd push him into interviews and stuff like that and get bits in the paper. And eventually, people started going to the theatre to see him.
Wow.
Because when I first started touring him, it wasn't packed. But after a few years, he used to get packed audiences.
Yes.
And he deserved it. He was a funny guy.
Yeah, you produced some really great shows, and I think I saw one on video, or I think I saw one of his live shows on a video once actually that I bought, and it was just packed full of fun, wasn't it? Really, really nice.
Oh, hilarious! He used to do the same act sort of night after night, but people loved it, and they loved him. And he always stopped afterwards for about 2 hours doing autographs, which was good.
Yeah, I got one of those once.
And even my kids, I've got 3, I've got little Jude, Leo, and Seb, and they sit and watch Norman Wisdom films now and fall out laughing.
Oh, that's sweet. I got 2 daughters, and I've put on Lauren Hardy and Norman Wisdom for them, and they love Mr. Bean. They love all those
funny,
classics. Yes.
Kids that age, comedy is comedy, and if it's funny, people will laugh at it.
Yeah, they love the
it doesn't
slapstick.
matter what age or when the comedy was. If it's funny, people will laugh.
That's brilliant. I don't think funny leaves you either, does it, Johnny? Because you are still you yourself. Do you miss doing the comedy shows yourself?
I don't necessarily miss. I don't know whether I probably wouldn't be able to do it now, but I do enjoy having a gag with people. I enjoy writing as well.
Okay.
Comedy bits. So I enjoy the WhatsApp group because you can come out with some lines that you've made up yourself.
I know, it's so great to do that. It makes you work, doesn't it?
Yeah, and people like. Did you know Peter Elliott?
I worked at Brinsworth House once, so I only got to meet Peter Elliott once. Yeah, and
Well, Peter Elliott and Bernie Clifton are two people, like yourself probably, that I could sit on the phone and we could chat and fall about laughing.
Yes, yeah.
Forever. Just chat. And Bernie said to me only a couple of weeks ago, he said we ought to do this in a theatre. Just chat back and forwards about experiences and what we've done and the silly things that have happened. And Peter Elliott used to say the same. You know, we'd have a chat for about 20 minutes and he'd go off and say, I've got 20 minutes of material now.
Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it? Because you sit in dressing rooms and think, I really wish the audience out there were in here now watching us. Because that's what the banter was. And that's what I'm trying to depict on these chats, actually, on this podcast. Because it really is those stories that people don't get to hear.
Yeah. Oh, yes. One other comic, a modern-day comic that I do like, that I think he can come out with lines any time of the day and chat, is Lee Mack.
I was just going to say, is it Lee Mack? Yeah, I agree with you. He's great, isn't he?
Yeah, I met him up in Birmingham as well, and he was great company. And he used to be a Pontin's Blue Coat.
He was, yeah. So, it comes back to full circle, doesn't it? Isn't it crazy?
He said to me at the time, he said, you used to be the visiting cabaret, and I was Skate's issue. Which is the guy sitting in a little hut giving out the roller skates.
Really? Oh, wow. Yeah. So he used to sit there and watch you as a comic. That's brilliant. Yeah. Well, it's nice that he remembered. And Lenny Henry remembered. We'll all remember. And that's why you're on the podcast. Johnny, we'll never forget you, mate. Thank you so much for doing this. And we'll... He's done it again. That's timing. I love it. Your timing has always been spot on. And I can't wait to see you at Lodge pretty soon, I hope. Fingers crossed. But thank you so much. We'd like to...
Okay, mate. Take care.
He didn't move his lips. That was Johnny Mans. Thank you, Johnny.
Bye.
Ice and Teeth. Thanks to Johnny Mans, a wonderful member of our order. He's brightened up so many days for us. Today's quote comes from Sir Norman Wisdom. But no, I've just been very lucky. But I've worked hard, and the harder you work, the luckier you seem to get. Eyes and Teeth is written, produced and hosted by Steve Hewlett. Vocals by Lola, Larissa and Nina Hewlett. Additional vocals by Rich T. The Eyes and Teeth music and jingles are produced and performed by Water Rat, Kevin Dean. Join me next time on Eyes and Teeth Season 8, The Water Rats, when I will be talking to suit designer to the stars, Neil Crossland.